Hi everybody, Michelangelo Badio here with No Boundaries. Today I want to talk to you about 7 strings. I am holding one of my signature models. It's called the Heritage HM724 7-string. Now this guitar is in satin white. Satin red, and then it also comes in satin black. And I'm going to play a little and then talk about why I love 7 strings. Before we start, I'm going to do some shout outs. I see Cynthia here, Denny, Tanya, Alexis, there's Brett, Nick, Jenny, and then Rob, my buddy Rob. Yeah, somebody wrote Man of War. We'll talk about that a little bit too. And but anyway, I love doing these live streams, and even when I'm on tour, I'm going to try and continue this, especially when I'm in Europe. We'll see about the time zone difference. But anyway, hey JD, how are you? There's Nick online, great. Anyway, this 7-string rules. This is actually the prototype. The production model is even better, and only Sawtooth, out of all the companies I've ever been with, is able to do this. I've written a lot of songs on 7-string, the album Intermezzo and also More Machine Than Man, both albums. So that's roughly about 20-something songs I've released over those 2 albums that involve 7-string. One of my favorites, I played this riff before for you. It's called Oceans of Time, and I wrote it on 7-string. It had to be on 7, but here's where it is. Now, it's a mixed meter, and it's really, I love the title Oceans of Time. I got it from Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie, where Vlad the Impaler, he goes, I've crossed oceans of time. And I thought, that's pretty cool. You should make a song out of that. So Joey thought it was a good line, so I did it. But here we go. Somebody's writing some things here. Let's see, always a good day with Emmy. More difficult result, apply alternate picking on the first 2 strings. Now that's interesting, because I think it's sometimes much easier. I think what the person's saying is that it's more difficult to go. Really see that. I think it's more difficult to play lower. But everything on 7 sounds like death. I mean, think of it. Which I love Judas Priest, but what if they had 7? just sounds mean. What I love about 7 strings, well, first of all, they're here to stay. It is like a 5-string banjo. 4 strings are more well known. They sell more 4 strings, but a 5-string banjo is there to stay. People have tried 6-string violins. Didn't really catch on. It's like a guitar, with a smaller speaking length of a neck. So the 4-string violin has remained 4 strings. And again, people use 6, but it's more for rock. It's not something like a classical violinist would maybe they would do it for goofing around, but it's not really an accepted form sorry, I had these earbuds and it's going dee, 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 dee. Anyway, what I thought about 7 strings when I first came up with the idea to use them, not coming up with 7 strings, I didn't think about a low B. I thought about a high A. Why? More notes! Faster! Higher, faster, louder! That was the Nitro mantra. And so I used a tenor banjo string for the high A, which made it 7 strings, and it kept breaking. And I thought, oh, this sucks. But the original 7 string was the first one to ever really use it that we know about is George Van Epps. And he used it for jazz comping. And so that he could play bass notes while he was playing chords. And so that is the real reason. And then, Steve Vai started using 7 strings, but it wasn't, we did it probably about the same time because I had my 7 string in Nitro and I used it on the album, and then he had his. I'm not sure if it was Whitesnake or something, but yeah, he's great. But he used the low B, I used the high A, and then I changed to the low B. But I think there's one. The reason that it's caught on so much, there's a couple. And because 7 string is a very accepted number of strings for an electric guitar now. There are a lot of players that just, younger players especially, that primarily play 7 strings. And this is the reason, one of them. First of all, it sounds killer. And it doesn't encroach that much on the bass. See, if you're a 4-string bass player like a Victor Wooten versus a 5-string player like, I play bass, I play 5 strings. It might, you encroach on the bass frequencies. And this is one thing that a lot of people were against 7 strings at first because, when you're producing music or when you're writing, even for a symphony orchestra, you have to know the range of the instrument. So, and the word is idiomatic. You have to know what the instrument can do, like what is comfortable for that instrument. Like, a guitar, what is comfortable for the way it's tuned versus a violin that's tuned in fifths. So anyway, but when you get to this 7th string, yeah, it dips into the bass range, but bass sounds, you can get the bass guitar really loud with a 7-string player. Now, that's one of the reasons 8 strings are popular, but I'm not sure if they'll ever catch on like a 7-string. 8-string guitar to me would be like a 6-string violin. Yeah, they're out there, people use them, people like them, but it's not so accepted like a 6-string guitar or a 7-string or a 4-string banjo and a 5-string. Now, one of the reasons, like I said, they sound cool, they don't, second, they don't encroach into the bass frequencies that much. But the third reason, I think this is one of the fundamental reasons, is it's not a big leap of faith thinking about it. Watch. If I want to go down, it's really simple to think of it. So when you're playing and riffing out that, really easy to use this 7th string. It doesn't, the hardest thing to do is just, you get tripped up a little bit playing simple chords in between because, you're thinking, okay, 6 strings. Now here's what Sawtooth did. This is my signature 7th string. Now it comes in black too, all black. It's mean. I mean, even the fret markers are black. And so what we did is we shortened the scale length. See, usually they use, what you can refer to as a Fender scale length, but it's longer. And like, for example, Gibson is smaller, Fender's longer. And one of the reasons they use that longer scale length is because it's easier to intonate. And so with a little bit more space, the intonation is, technically better. But any great guitar player using a smaller scale length, you don't really, they're not great if they play out of tune, but you don't really hear out of tune. Fingers can compensate, your ear can compensate. So what we did, I was talking to the people at Sawtooth and I said, well, why not make this smaller? Because a lot of people, say, oh, 7 strings too thick, man, it's too this, it's too that, it's too hard to play, which I can understand that. So why not make it easier? And we did it, and this scale length is smaller. This is 24 frets of death, doom, and destruction. And after this, if you A-B'd this against another guitar with a normal fret spacing, you would find that this neck is smaller. So what does that mean? You've got more of a reach, and it's easier to play. Plus, this sounds fantastic. Sounds so mean, even on the clean side. Now here's what we put in this guitar. These are Fishman Fluence pickups. I'll tell you, even on some of my earlier signature guitars, I used an active pickup system. I never really liked it. I was always a passive pickup person. I felt that they're more expressive. I felt active pickups, unless you're Zakk Wylde, unless he's in fact, I'll say it, he's the only one that I've ever heard that really has his unique sound. Because what active pickups usually do is they make a mediocre player that really doesn't have the sound in their fingers. And, you can develop that, so it's not like you can't. But what I'm saying is that, or one that hasn't played guitar that long, it gives you a good sound. It's almost like being in 5th gear all the time. It's got one volume, loud, and it's got a sound, so no matter, like when I played through active systems, I couldn't make it sound quite like me because it sounds like the pickup. And so if you don't have your own sound, they're good pickups. If you do have your own sound, it's hard to get that sound. And so what I found with these Fishman Fluence, well, first of all, you don't need a battery. All you do is plug it in. It's like a mini USB, and you charge the guitar. About 3 hours of charge will last hundreds of hours. So you don't have to worry about replacing the battery. If it gets really low, you're going to hear it. But what I love about these Fishman Fluence is just the sound is so smooth. It's got that expression. It's got the sound that I like. Now also, it's got one other feature too that's really cool. It's got active and passive. Subtle difference, but it's a difference. And I've found that I've used both. And so you have all these fantastic features. And this has really sold me on active pickup systems. I think the Fishman Fluence is the best one on the market, and that's what we use. This is a really awesome 7-string, and it's on sale, which is very cool. But it gets a, listen. It's just got a really great sound, even on the low end. metal surf music. Get those pick squeals like Zakk Wylde or like Dimebag. And but anyway, like I said, this is the prototype. The production model sonically is equally as good, if not better. But we worked out some of the bugs like on the neck and a few things that are on the production model that are actually improvements over this. But I like guitars like this to keep in my collection. The original, the first. And so that's what this is. Now, I've talked about the guitar. 7 strings are awesome. If you don't have one in your collection, you should get one. You should get this one. And but you should get one. And other companies make them, and look at, they're all cool. Nobody has made a guitar with this scale length that we have. That's in 7 string. It's so easy to use, and it's the idea. It's the logic of it that makes it easy to use, because starting from your first string moving downward sound wise, your E to the B is a 4th, then B to G is a 3rd, but then everything down, where you go G to D, D to A, and so everything is down a 4th. Well, so is that B string, E to B. So it's not a big leap of faith logically and intellectually to play this. It's easy. And so once you get used to it, you're like, I didn't know it was this easy, man. It's like pretty easy, dude. You can smoke a bud, like chill out, bro, and just like play some cool stuff. I mean, it just sounds mean. Anything out of 7 sounds mean. That's one of the reasons, like, early heavy metal didn't sound that. It doesn't sound heavy anymore. You hear Green Manalishi, which I love. I love Judas Priest. I listen to him all the time. Green Manalishi. But what if they use, and I'll try it again. Green Manalishi. I don't know what. But what if it was down to B? I'd have to do it death metal. I'm still working on my vegan death metal. So far I've gotten broccoli. It's good for me. Die, broccoli, die! Here's another line. Cauliflower gives me power. Yes! Die! Die, vegetables! Die! So anyway, if I release that, I promise it's going to be so serious. And the lyrics, nobody will know, because how do you understand? Ooh, 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 ooh. You could be saying, I love you. I mean, I love death metal, I do. In fact, I make a joke about it, like when I'm working, sometimes I'll put on a death metal mix. It's kind of soothing to me. I'm hearing everybody go, whoa! I'm thinking, it's very peaceful. I'm hearing these deadly riffs, but in my brain, it's like it just starts coming in. And it's like, I don't know, I make a joke about it, but it's true. It feels peaceful to me sometimes. And, because I don't key in on the lyrics. It's not like I'm listening to a Beatles song and mean Mr. Mustard sleeps in the park, shaves in the dark. It's not listening to these lyrics and these intense melodies, Norwegian Wood or whatever it is, or even a Priest song, you got another thing coming. I latch onto that stuff like immediately, and I can't get it out of my head. But a lot of the death metal stuff, because it's only there's no melody when you sing. So what do you have? The 3 main elements of music are what? Harmony, melody, rhythm. That's it. Okay, those are the 3 basic things. 2 + 2, metal 4 minus metal 1. Those are the 3. Harmony, melody, rhythm. That's it. Everything is derived from those 3. Well, what happens? You take melody away. So now you have harmony and rhythm. And so the harmony is on the instruments, the rhythm is the vocals. There's not really a set pitch. Do I like it? Yes. And 7 strings are made for death metal. I just like the power of it, and I make jokes about it, but I make jokes about everything. But I'm not criticizing the music itself. I do believe the Jim Carrey, when you saw that thing about, you don't bring me flowers, there's no melody there. So that's why I said it's kind of soothing sometimes, because I'm not keying in on the melody at all. I hear good rhythms, I hear, great playing and all this stuff, but not lyrics and not melodies. Anyway, I also want to talk, let's see, somebody said, isn't a longer scale length beneficial? That's the thinking, but why would it be beneficial if I can do everything that a longer scale neck can do, and I can keep it as in tune, but mine is easier to play? There you go. See, conventional wisdom said what this person just wrote, which is cool. But see, conventional wisdom also said we couldn't do a hybrid guitar with humbuckers and single coils because the pickups were too close together. Well, we did it. They also said I wanted to do an active and a passive pickup forever ago. I was told by my former company, you can't be done. Well, guess what? Fishman just did it. So when or like sycamore wood, there's another thing. People said, well, you can't use sycamore, man. Well, why not? Well, no, it's not really good wood for guitar. It's super light. It's super plentiful. It's not endangered. We used it. And it's awesome. It's super lightweight. So, conventional wisdom says certain things, but I have a saying, you can't think outside the box unless you know what's in the box. We know what's in the box. And, it's like just like coming up with a double guitar. A lot of times I like to start with a wide fret grouping. And, you can play like parallel, like almost symmetrical lines, but it sounds so warped because the lower string ends on a higher note. And, when I was doing just something like an E, and you start off with this, people could say, well, dude, what key is that? There's like wrong notes, or there's this. It's an undetermined chord. There's no third. There's no third. There's no G if it's an E chord. There's no G sharp. So the sonority, it's undetermined. We used to literally call it that. Now they call it an E5 or a power chord. We used to call it E undetermined because the sonority or the type of chord is based on a third or a fifth. Now, if it's a flatted note, that's different. There you have diminished. But you're basing it on thirds. See, it's a minor third and another minor third. But, so when you have a flatted fifth, you're back in thirds. But if you play a 1 and a 5, it's not major or minor. Like, which one is it, major or minor? Yes. Or it's like saying, does my double guitar come in a left-handed version? Somebody actually asked that. I was like, I know they were goofing around, but like, that's pretty clever, man. Does it? Yeah. Does it come in a right-handed version? Yeah. And so, but the idea that, standard thinking, I've never been a proponent of just staying the way people thought, because that's what I went to school for, to learn. And I learned every great composer has broken rules, and yet there are rules based on great composers like Bach. But getting back to the 7th string, it's just vicious. That's E, but when you move it down, you're just in the death zone. It just sounds killer. Now, let's see. There's somebody here that's going off here, Sycamore super hard. It's light. We didn't say anything about being hard. It's a light wood. Okay, and so, but if it's super hard, great. Then that means it's even better for guitar. And so, but it's light and it's resonant. It's cool. It's great. And my matted black M24 is made out of sycamore, and it's super lightweight and it's got a thick sound. It's great. Now I want to talk a little bit about Man of War. It was announced recently that I'm playing guitar on the tour, and Man of War is a big band. You know, they've sold over 20 million albums. They have, you know, basically 1 million people a month on Spotify listening to them. You know, they play huge concerts, so I'm really honored to play with them. Joey is a phenomenal bass player. I mean, he's super fast, super articulate. And what I love about them is they've taken a position. And I've always done that. You know, when we were in Nitro, we took a position. I mean, Jim was a fantastic singer. And he could do anything vocally, and I mean anything. And, you know, range-wise, sing raspy, sing clean, sing low, sing high. You know, I just was amazing the things that he could do. But we took a position, and I've done that in my whole life, in my career. And I think, you know, if you're in business, and the business of music, the business of entertainment, if you're a pop star, you have to embrace that. And in pop, you have to have hits, and your image has to change. That's one of the key things in pop, that you're constantly evolving your image. But see, rock is different and metal is different. AC/DC, Angus Young does not have to look like, you know, Dua Lipa. Okay, he doesn't have to change his look from a schoolboy to a schoolgirl. Okay, he doesn't have to do anything different than what he's done. It's the same thing with Motley Crue or Kiss. Kiss took off their makeup, which is a huge publicity coolness. I mean, but they had the music to back it up. Lick it up. You know, their music, and they looked really cool without makeup. I mean, you look at those videos, they looked awesome. And then when they put it back on, but they had a clear-cut direction. Makeup on, makeup off. High caliber songs. You know, really intense, great songs. And so that's what I loved about Man of War. They have great songs. Their production is absolutely fantastic in the studio. I played on the new song Immortal. So if you go to Spotify and listen to the brand new Man of War song, that's me playing guitar. And I've tailored my sound, and it's because of Joey's production. He has a complete sense of what Man of War is. And I am Mr. Metal anyway. I mean, Nitro was metal. I'm born to play metal guitar. And I loved it. I've loved it ever since I was a kid. I feel it. I live it. And so it was really a good collaboration, because when he talked to me about this, I could understand what he was saying. And we did a lot of little nuances, like where to move the pick, on the strings. I mean, it's a very tailored, specific sound. And I didn't go in there trying to make it an MAB thing at all. But we got along real good musically, and, you know, we were jamming, and everything just worked out. And I'm really looking forward to the shows. I mean, you know, Man of War, if you've not seen Man of War, it's basically, you know, it's a huge production, huge. The venues are huge that we're going to be playing, and I'm really honored to play with them. And it's something that, you know, I've wanted to do for a long time. I mean, I played with Smashing Pumpkins last year as a guest of the band at over 30,000 people. Smashing Pumpkins is one of my all-time favorite bands. Billy is such a great writer. I mean, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. I mean, that's pretty amazing lyrics and melody, you know. And I used to love, you know, they personified that era, because, you know, the verses would be really quiet and melodic. And then even think about Nirvana, you know, dun, dun, you know, and I mean, think about Smells Like Teen Spirit. So the verses are melodic, and then he blasts into this chorus. Well, Smashing Pumpkins had that same kind of thing, where you had these lighter verses. You know, the world is a vampire. You know, he's singing, and then, despite all my rage, then it just blasts into this massive chorus and this super catchy thing. And so it was like, I remember hearing when I heard Quiet Riot for the first time, and they did that song, you know, bang your head. I used to think, when I heard bang your head, I used to say to myself, that personifies heavy metal right there. Just the song, it was like an anthem of metal. When I hear Priest, it's like you just want to do this. Well, that's how I felt the first time I heard Man of War. And so I'm just so looking forward to going up on stage and playing. So, and their other guitar player, I don't know all the details, but I know that he had to take some time off. I don't know if it was family things, but I watched him on some videos. He was great, I mean, but I'm very happy to be, playing on the tour as a guitar player. And then if you listen to Immortal, that's me on guitar as well. All the guitars there, the rhythms and the leads. Now, let's see. I'm going to see some questions. Somebody asked, any chances you will play on the upcoming Manowar album? All I can say is, if you go to Spotify right now, their brand new song, Immortal, is me on guitar. I can't say any more than that, but so it's pretty cool. Anyway, one last thing too, with this guitar, there is a sale going on the 7-string, and it's at a great price normally. Just even a clean. Somebody asks, okay, there's some heavy, I think we got some Manowar people here. But anyway, somebody asked if I practice with distortion or unamplified, both. Because when you're playing unamplified, you want to hear the pick attack. You want to play loud. You want to play aggressively. Sometimes I play with distortion. Sometimes I play clean. Every practice session, I do both. When I grew up, it was only clean guitar. On my first instructional programs, all clean guitar exercises. People that know my career and watched the show know that I've done a lot of stuff with a clean sound. I love to play acoustic too. So, when you answer questions like that, even if somebody comes off nicely or comes off a little abrasive, it's still an important question, because the answer is all of the above. Because it's kind of like saying, well, do you play with an orange guitar or red guitar, or do you use electric or acoustic? Well, I use, now the orange or red, you could say, nah, is that important? Not really. But the electric and acoustic is important. Do you play either or? Do you practice on acoustic or electric? You practice on both. Why not? Because it helps your skill. It's synergy. One helps the other, that helps the other. So, when I've been working really hard on acoustic lately, and what I realized with flamenco players, which I've known for a long time anyway, they hit the guitar really hard. I mean, when they're playing fast, it's really articulate. And even in some ways more so than classical guitars, although that's hard to say. A person like Andre Segovia or Elliot Fisk or any of the new breed, they hit it super hard too when it's necessary. And so I've been practicing with a pick. I love Al Di Meola. He was great on acoustic, great on electric, and I've been working really hard at getting that really articulate pick sound. And, so to say it for the 20th time, what do you practice? I do everything. I practice acoustic. I practice acoustic plugged in, electrified. I practice it acoustically. I practice electric unamplified, because you can hear the sound of the pick like this, like. So you can hear it. And so a lot of times when you can't hear it, like a player will play like this, and they're legato, and you barely hear it on a clean sound, but on overdrive, massive overdrive, you hear, all this legato and Robert's picks. It's like, I want to pick. I want to pick it. So he's like, shut up. Michelle, I'm going to show you how it's done. What does that sound unamplified? Oh, impressive. Very impressive. Shut up. Shut up, Joey. So, when you hear this, it's not very impressive. You can't hear it. And so that's why you play unamplified. I love to go like just line. Because it's so heavy. And You hear that? Every note. And so when I go to play fast on distortion, sounds good. When I play it clean, sounds good. And so you want to use all those different sounds. Sorry, I'm looking at the mic here because I was, but you want to use everything you can. And that's the great thing about playing a guitar. I mean, think about all the sounds a guitar can get. I'm such a fan of guitar and music. I still love to practice. I still love it. I still, I've got a big guitar collection, as most of you know. I just love it. I want more guitars. I love 7 strings. I remember when I developed my first signature 7-string, and this one smokes it, I remember the owner of the company saying, well, have you ever written 7-string songs? I go, no. He goes, well, why don't you write them? Why don't you use a 7-string? It's like, duh. So I started writing all this 7-string music, and I found it's very difficult not to use it writing. I love the sound of a 7-string. And we made the ultimate 7-string because, I have a lot of experience making signature guitars. Sawtooth has all the experience in the manufacturing and the detail process. And right now we are really stocked up in a good way on guitars where a lot of companies aren't. The supply chain issue is real with many companies around the planet. Well, Sawtooth saw that coming and really, so, we've sold out of virtually every one of my signature guitars multiple times. Even the double guitars are just gone. The Do played one of my doubles. I didn't even know it. Herman Lee had the Do on his show, and he goes, I got to talk to Michelangelo about this. I think he thinks, and I haven't talked to him about it, but I will. I think he thought that I gave the Do a guitar but wouldn't give it to Herman because we're good. Herman and I are good friends. And that's not the case. The Do bought it just like everyone else, put on this awesome video online. It was really killer, has millions of views. I didn't even know, no one knew that it was him buying it. He used whatever name that, I don't know the person's name, but, and the point is that, the signature guitars that we do at Sawtooth are based on my years of doing very successful signature guitars in the past, and their business acumen and manufacturing acumen. I'm telling you, the way they manufacture is just incredible. And, that's why they can get the prices really reasonable. And, on this guitar, just a 7-string trem, it's expensive. And a black one, the German Floyd is not made in black. So we used the Korean Floyd Rose, which is absolutely fantastic. I've used Korean Floyd Roses. They're almost the same as the German ones. And I've never, ever had a problem, ever. And that's what we use on this because they're not available to keep the hardware black and everything looking mean. We decided on black. But the Korean Floyd, and it's not cheap to begin with, but it is fantastic. This is a great guitar. And so let's see. Somebody wrote, I love my 3 Sawtooth guitars. Do you have to get special strings so they don't overheat? No, we like the normal ones. But what I do is I just keep cold water close and a fire extinguisher. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. When you say fire extinguisher, that's Joey. Yes. And when I talk about vegan death metal, see, I'm not a vegetarian, but Joey is. And so his line is, death to meat. Die, meat, die. And Robert's like, shut up and just play. And I'm like, well, I like a good burger. It's like a Pulp Fiction. That's a tasty burger. Where'd you get that? What kind is it? Cheeseburger. No, where'd you get it? McDonald's, Wendy's, where'd you get it? Big Kahuna Burger. I hear they have some tasty burgers. I love Pulp Fiction. And Samuel L. Jackson in that scene is just so amazing in Travolta, the way he plays it, because he sounds like the old show Welcome Back Cottage. Like, he's got that kind of city kind of slang to his voice and the way he pronounces his words, not with, with this and with that and the way it's not rapper, it's like city. And it's just such a great movie. And I love watching movies when I play. A lot of times when I play unamplified, I'm watching a movie. And when the scenes of death, mayhem, destruction, doom, nuclear war, the aliens are taking over the planet, that's when it gets picked hard. It's like, yes. Die! Yes! And so that's when I also do it in a practice where it's really just for dexterity. You know, I'm not, but a lot of times I keep my phone handy. You have no idea how many hundreds of little riffs I've got in my phone because I'll be sitting there watching a movie. You know, especially like a movie that I know, like a Pulp Fiction or The Terminator or even the first Avengers movie. I've seen it a bunch of times. So I know a lot of the lines. I know what's coming up. And so like I'll be thinking, and then like my mind will drift and I'll come up with a riff. And I'm like, that's cool. So I'll take my phone and record it right there. And then Michael Amott from Arch Enemy actually told me a good idea. He goes, why are you recording it? He goes, you should film it because then you don't have to figure out how you played it, which is very true. But anyway, let's see. Guitar clinics are nice, but you could up the game. Somebody wrote that. I'm not sure what that means. Haven't been watching all the comments, but I can tell you this. I love doing guitar clinics, and I'll tell you why. One, I traveled around the world, 58 countries doing them, and I traveled great, a lot of times in business class flying overseas. One-man shows. Obviously, if you're not paying a full band and just yourself, you make more money, but it wasn't about the money. It made me a much better guitar player, and because I was playing guitars from the stores, and they weren't mine. So a lot of the older videos that you see of me online are with guitars that aren't mine. I've never used them. In fact, I'm doing a clinic this Saturday for Sawtooth, and it's a strange name, but it's a really cool store. It's my second clinic that I've done for Sawtooth, and the second one I've done in the last 2.5 years. And I don't do many clinics anymore, but it's educational. And it's called Blue Potato Music. It's in Oblong, Illinois. Now, I'm from Chicago. I never heard of Oblong, Illinois. And I Googled it, not Googled it, but I put it on maps. And sure enough, it's a cruise. It's down in kind of southern Illinois, and, it's a small city. But the reason why I love workshops, it's educational. It made me be a better player because I had to play guitars I've never used. I became really quick at setting up, doing quick setups. Like I can adjust a Floyd Rose in 5 minutes. And I learned nuances about guitars. For example, where do the strings lay in relation to the body? Is it parallel? Is it a little angled? All these things make a difference. How many of you can walk into a store and pick up a guitar you've never played that's completely different from the one you play, and then you're expected to play phenomenal? And this is what I did for decades. And it just gave me, like, my fingers got strong. I feel this. See, a lot of times, after a while, if you lose strength in your hand, you lose strength playing. And if you lose that strength, you lose the power that you had when you were younger. That's one of the reasons why you can be older and play, and I can be older and play like I do. I still have a lot of hand strength, and I purposely make it that way, and that's why I pick hard. But I also, with workshops, you get to interact with people, you get to find out what people think, but you're talking to the musicians. You're talking to people, and I get to tell stories. But I think doing workshops and helping people is one of the noblest things a person can do. That's why I did it. I never really thought when I did instructional programs, am I going to make all this money? Actually, money never occurred to me at first because I've always done well because I always do the best that I can. And so if you do the best job you can and it doesn't work out, I can live with that. Okay, but if I don't do the best job, and that's where a lot of times people don't succeed. A Robert Downey Jr., had a tough life in some ways, but yet he became Iron Man and he was not their first choice. The list goes on and on. Paul McCartney, John Lennon, they had tough lives growing up. Liverpool, they didn't have a lot of money. Both their mothers died when they were young. You listen to these people's stories and you realize, we're all human. You think, they just are superstars and that's all they've ever done. But you don't realize sometimes what it took to get there. And even people like, if you're born to a famous family, but you don't have quite their talent. That's another thing. Steve Vai said a great thing about Frank Zappa, because they asked, well, what did it feel like to play with Frank Zappa? He said, genius just doesn't rub off on you. And see, if your father or mother is a genius, that doesn't mean you're a genius. And it's sometimes very tough to live up to the family name when somebody was so exceptional in that family. Picture an Elvis. He was a global phenomenon. You know, his music, I mean, he still looks cool, still sings good. The list goes on and on. And in educational things, this is some of the things that I think about. I think in terms of these things. You know, I listen to Steve Vai, what he has to say, because he has a lot of knowledge and he says a lot of great things. Sometimes people overlook it, or they say smart ASS remarks, and it goes one ear, not the other. It doesn't do that with me. I listen and learn from everybody. And so my final thought for today for you is 7-strings rule. The sawtooth 7-string is exceptional. It's exceptional on pickups. It's exceptional in the ease of playing a neck. It's a smaller scale length. You can use 9s to 42. We put a 52. It's a thin string on the 7th string. It works great. Stays in tune. Everything's cool. And why did this 7-string come about? Because here is my mantra, always a student. If you think you're too good, that you're not going to learn anything new, you're going to stop. Your timeline for everything you know stops right there, because always a student means you can always learn something new. I took what I knew about designing 7-strings and put it into this, and the black version is really cool, and these matte finishes are great, and it's on sale. So this is Michelangelo Badio. I hope to see you. Also, the MAB band is playing in California Saturday. It's kind of like a really cool tune-up show. Saturday, September 24th at the Universal Bar and Grill. And it's a really cool club in the Valley, close to Universal Studios. We're going to pack this place out. Real music, no backing tracks, not like a clinic situation where I have to play by myself to tracks. This is real music played by real people. We have great vocals. Our bass player, Nils, has got a great voice. I sing backgrounds. I've got a pretty good voice. Our drummer, Joe Fuco, is one of the main owners of Sawtooth. He's a world-class drummer, and we're going to just tear it up. So I'm playing there, and I also, for the people in Europe, I hope to see you on tour at one of the Man-O-War shows. The Man-O-War shows are massive, massive, and it's going to be filled with just great players playing great music. Anyway, I'm Michelangelo